Jamsin Entertainment.
Hey, today's throwback review is Dungeons and Dragons, and boy, what a movie we got here. I first saw this when it came out, in 2000, something like that. It's been a while, and the first time I saw it, me and my friends were like, "Whoa, this movie's horrible, and it doesn't represent Dungeons and Dragons at all, except for the fact that it has Dungeons and Dragons. The other aspects, yeah, it has some of the fantasy creatures from it, but not Dungeons and Dragons." Watching it again last week, this is Dungeons and Dragons. I'll explain. So, briefly, I'll tell you what the game Dungeons and Dragons actually is, for those of you who do not know. Dungeons and Dragons is a role-playing game for tabletop. Which, well, it's in the, yeah. You have your character sheet, your pencil, pen if you're that confident, but pencil. Everyone uses pencil because you're gonna erase stuff, new items and stuff. So it's a role-playing game. You have a character that you make: human, elf, dwarf, halfling. The newer editions you can, well, even in the old edition, the one I love is version 2, and I want to get to 5, but me and my friends just haven't gotten around to playing 5 because another topic. Anyway, you build a character. The character could be a fighter, thief, wizard, druid, cleric, bard, and then they have their subclasses for each of those. And you have someone who's called the Dungeon Master, who tells you the story, but you help him form the story. And there's rules to all of this, but within the Dungeon Master's rulebook, it says if you don't know what something is, and there's not a rule for it, or you don't have the rules for it, make it up. So you could literally just, you don't even, well, okay, you need the basic stuff from the player's handbook and the monsters from the monster manual. You can make up basic characters, have the DM just use the monster manual, and go. You might want to use a map of maybe your town or something. That's what we did once when I was a little kid. Literally took a map of the town we grew up in, growing up in, and that was our Dungeons and Dragons map. So it's really great if you're geeky. Oh, and there's dice. Lots of dice. Yeah, it's not just a normal 6-sider dice you would see at a casino or anything. There's 10-siders, 20-siders, 4, 8, 12, 100, but that's normally 2 dice. And in this, I have a friend who's from really weird dice. He actually has a 3-sider, a 5, 5, not 5. And I down the road I will have Dungeons and Dragons the game talk. Now I'm just getting off. Okay, so the DM has the basic story. The characters help form it, like I said earlier. And this movie, I'm convinced now, watching it again as an adult, that this, I have no idea if the directors, writers, or whoever was the major people behind this, who made this, were D&D fans, and this is like one of their early games that they've ever played, and they said, well, we can make a movie out of this messed up storyline, this crazy storyline, and they did it. Or they were like, this is a D&D campaign I would love to play, but let's take it one step further and make it into a movie. That's a great possibility, and it would be insane and awesome if that were the case. Or Now this one is just purely just making fun of the movie. The movie looks like they were at a Ren fair and they just started filming and there were people LARPing. If you don't know what LARPing is, it's an acronym for live action role playing. It's an actual thing. I would love to do it sometime. You get dressed up in like medieval gear and you go out and you play a character. I don't know how the character gets developed or anything, but you play a character. So if you have spells, you actually say the spells and stuff like that. And you have like foam swords and bows and arrows, all that kind of cool stuff. But it just, this movie, because oh man, the costumes are hilariously horrible. It's like they went to Party City and just got like went to, if there's a medieval section, they went to that, got outfits for each person, and that was their costume design. Because the armor looks like plastic. It probably is plastic. The one prop I will give to to costume design is that the one character, he's bald and has blue lips for some reason. I can't remember his name. Starts with a D. He has this really cool looking armor, fake looking armor, but his cape, he has these big shoulders in the armor, and the cape goes through that instead of being like resting and going down like you normally see. This one is straight across. It's like a banner more than a cape, but it's pretty cool. Oh god! Don't get me. It's the effects, the CGI. It, they probably, yeah, they probably looked worse than some of the video games cinema scenes, because back then they didn't, gameplay wasn't that good. It was getting there. Halo definitely looked better than this. If Halo came out at that time, I can't remember. But wow, this movie's bad, and I don't know if it's bad intentionally, or is it they didn't have enough budget. A lot of the actors are overacting. You have a couple that underact, and you have some that actually do act. But but a lot of these actors are putting their all into this movie. Some of them, for instance, Jeremy Irons is in this. Yeah, Jeremy Irons. I think he just I think he purely had fun with it. He did whatever he wanted, and the director loved it. They either loved that he was overacting, or they just like, it's like oh, that's what I want. This is D&D. That's what we want. We want acting. We want to see like this bloodshot eye like crazy wizard. And that's exactly what Jeremy Irons did. He's just crazy throughout the entire film. So, for actual story, they kind of explain it in the beginning. It's confusing, especially if you don't know Dungeons and Dragons. This is not Dungeons and Dragons lore. To my knowledge, there are books. I haven't read them, besides, the actual game books. The story books. But mages are the ruling class, and anyone that's not a mage is filth. And that's like the subplot of the movie. The big plot of the movie is that Jeremy Irons' character, Profion, is trying to overthrow the government because the queen, pretty sure it's a queen, is a mage. Like everyone that, like I said, the ruling class are mages. And she wants to make everyone equal. And Profion, Jeremy Irons, wants to keep things as they are. And so he starts out with the film where I think he makes his own scepter to control dragons. That fails. And oh yeah, that reminds me, this movie rips off Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Oh, man, there was a third one in there. I can't remember what it was. They rip off another big movie franchise. I'm sorry, I can't remember. Maybe, hopefully, it'll come to me by the end of the video. So, it's a very loose political story of mages versus everyone else. And then we have our other characters. I don't remember all their names, so I'm gonna go with female mage, uh, thief, and snails, who's played by Marlon Wayans. I think it's Marlon Wayans. And there's a female elf, and I'm not. She does have a name, Nadora, I think her name is. There's a dwarf in this. A dwarf who comes completely out of nowhere. Other than the fact that the female mage, the thief, and snails. Okay, so the thief and snails sneak into the mage's tower or whatever, and they're being thieves. They get caught by the female mage, and she puts a rope spell on them. So, right there, that is a D&D spell. And the female mage knows about the plot that Profion has, and she does have a mentor who gets cornered by Profion's henchman, the guy with the cool cape, and he has a map. He tosses her the map, he gets killed. The map leads to another scepter that controls only red dragons, but Profion still wants that because controlling dragons, period, is pretty awesome and powerful, and it would help his cause greatly. So they escape through portals, dimensional portals, and they literally run into a dwarf who's picking through trash. A dwarf just, if it was that scene, he came and went, it would have been fine. But this dwarf, he doesn't even have a name. I'm going to call him Not Gimli. And if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, well, I just gave you the answer. So they run into Not Gimli, and he has like the weirdest introduction ever. He's just standing there looking dumbfounded at the soldiers that pursued our heroes, and they shoot an arrow and it knocks his helmet off, and he gives like the dumbest sound ever for just because his hat got blown off, or helmet. And here's the first Star Wars ripoff. There's a garbage chute, and our heroes jump in there, and the dwarf decides to follow. I don't know. And he's in it for the rest of the film. And they literally call him Dwarf. Get the dwarf. He has no name. I'm sure if I looked up the credits, he might have a name, but I'm calling him Not Gimli. Because he looks like a horrible caricature of Gimli. It's not Gimli. So, where was I going? That can happen in D&D, trust me. Alright, so they're on the quest for the Red Scepter, and part of it is that you need to get this gem to put into this statue that lets you into a cave that gets the Red Scepter. Now, at the Den of Thieves, the lead thief, he says, yeah, I've had it for years. I put it at the end of my crazy torture maze, and whoever gets it, it's theirs. And the thief goes through it, and here's the ripoff of Indiana Jones. The very first trap, you remember from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the light was, if you put your hand, if you go through the light, spikes come out. Well, they have that part. The only thing they change up is that pendulum swing. And that part, it's kind of cool. After he figures it out, it's really cool because he jumps on the pendulums, and he goes from pendulum to pendulum to get to the end, to the next puzzle, which is from Last Crusade. He can only step on the red eye. In Last Crusade, he has to spell out Jehovah and what was it, Latin? I can't remember. But Jehovah starts with an I because Indy steps through the J and it breaks. It starts with an I, and so he has to step. The thief has to step on an I and only the red eyes to get through this, or else he's going to get burned to death. Then, Temple of Doom. They have that trap in there because the next one after that is the falling ceiling with the spikes. He figures that one out, and then finally they go back to Raiders of the Lost Ark, where the jewel is just sitting there, just like the artifact was in Raiders of the Lost Ark. But this time they don't have a trap or anything. It's just sitting there. He retrieves it, and that's it. The Den of Thieves, being dishonorable, he says, "Yeah, I want it back because it's mine. I'm going to kill you because if you don't give it back, that's what's going to happen." But the evil minion of Profion comes by, and that foils that plan, and they get away. The rest of the movie is just like the Profion's minion chasing them. Snails dies, and the movie does its darndest to make you feel bad that Snails is dead, but you can't. Okay, why can't you feel bad that Snails is dead? Because he's the most annoying character in the movie. He's the Jar Jar of the movie. He's not funny. Just like Jar Jar wasn't funny. Jar Jar was supposed to be funny, but he wasn't funny. You learned your lesson there, didn't you, Lucas? Kind of. So the movie comes down to the thief gets the scepter. The scepter gets taken back from him to Profion, and there's what's supposed to be a really awesome battle of dragons and mages. It's just goofy because the CGI is so horrible. It's just absolutely horrible. And the fight scenes go from okay choreographed to anyone could do that fight scene. I'm just gonna fast forward because the movie's, well, I mean, I'm at the end anyway. Profion gets eaten by a dragon, and everyone's happy now. But the movie doesn't quite end there. It ends on a weirdly weird note. It's still trying to make you feel bad for Snails, because the thief is at his grave and he's saying goodbye, I'll see you in the next life. And the elf comes back and says, yeah, your friend's waiting for you. And then the dwarf, the elf, the female mage, and the thief, they all, I guess, get transported somewhere magically, and that's the end of the film. Dungeons and Dragons, have you seen it? If you have, you probably know what I'm talking about. Are you a Dungeons and Dragons fan? All these questions, fill me in the comments below. If you like what you saw, like it. If you think other people will like it, share it. If you really liked it, hit the subscribe button and stay tuned for tomorrow. If you noticed on my channel, I've made up a new section. It's called Jamsin Movie Stuff. It's whenever I have like a shout out to Hollywood, or what was the other one I did? Oh, trailers. What's up with trailers? And I'm doing one tomorrow, and I'm gonna start doing it Friday. I'm not sure about regular. You'll definitely know by next week if it's gonna be a regular thing. Tomorrow is gonna be about Star Wars. Well, okay, I'll leave it at that. It's gonna be about Star Wars. Movie stuff about Star Wars. I've also decided that Sundays, the week before a movie, is going to be prep work Sundays. Now, obviously, that can't be for all movies, because Captain America and Batman v Superman have a series of videos that I've done, and the same will be true for other movies. For instance, Star Wars is coming out at the end of the year with a standalone story. I'm still going to do prep work for that. There's prep work for that, and some of it you already know, some of it you don't. We'll wait. We'll worry about that when it happens. But Sundays, the week of the movie, or at least the Sundays leading up to the movies for some movies, are going to be Prep Work Sunday. Stay tuned.
Live your imagination.